Like, let's go silent.
Good morning. It is Sunday, not just any Sunday. It's the Sunday before Easter. It's a Sunday where
you guys hear the music right now.
No, I'm sure you hear music in your head. It does usually happen after the second dab.
That's just weird.
I got Jefferson Starship stuck in my head. I don't know why, but it's horrific.
Well, here we are.
So. Anyways, here we are. It's coming up on Easter. We just finished the largest protest in history yesterday, which is really kind of cool because it's good to see community engagement. And I'm just thrilled that we're moving on with this election coming up. We got all sorts of crap to talk about. So let's just jump into the rotation and let's make it happen.
All right.
Carlos, this is where you... I think you shaved off too much hair from your head.
Oh, that's some weird technical difficulties going on there, guys.
I cannot hear you.
I've got some weird technical difficulties going.
Okay. Well, you're sorting them out, so we'll get it.
You want to restart, or you want to start up again?
No. We're good. Just roll with it.
Well, then let's go ahead and roll with it. But right now, I'll start with the introductions. And by the way, we do have a special guest coming on in about 10 minutes, so keep an eye out for that.
Okay. Cool.
But my name is Gary Stein. I am the political director and policy director of Suncoast NORML and our master of public health. And to my left, coming to us from somewhere within 140-mile radius of Washington, D.C., our executive director and master of public administration, Christopher Cano. Chris, did you go to the rally out there in Washington yesterday?
I have to keep it real. Anytime I see that amount of people mobilizing in the streets, I personally find it a safety issue for me to be out there. I'm just not. I got a family, and I just didn't see the need to get out there at the moment. It wasn't like I was getting a paycheck. So with no reason, I know that there's the conspiracy that the president had said online that, this is a George Soros funded event. And I can tell you, as someone who drove turnout, I didn't get a paycheck to do that. So no, I was not on the clock. There was no reason for me to be around thousands and thousands of people unmasked in the streets.
Look, I'm a Jew, and I didn't get a check from George Soros, I thought maybe we were like first in line or some kind of shit like that, but that didn't happen. But there was quite a bit of independents in the crowd yesterday, and Republicans, which I find it very refreshing because protests should be across the board. Back in the day, back when they're protesting in the late 60s, early 70s, you were not quite born yet, but the politics in those crowd was not about party; it was about issues. And that's the way it always carried on.
Well, there's a lot to be said about that. It feels like regardless of what political parties in power, working people consistently feel left out by the decisions that are made by their government. And, I think that there is no policy that is clearer that the government doesn't care about people than it comes to cannabis prohibition, because regardless of your social status, regardless of your demographics and how you identify and such, it is definitely disheartening to see that we've gone through numerous presidential administrations, numerous presidents who smoked pot, and yet we're still dealing with prohibition. And I know that in recent weeks, a lot of pro-Trump supporters have, just try to uplift his rescheduling executive order. And we saw the same thing among Democrats during the Biden administration. And to no avail, we saw no actual movement in either one. And as Pam Bondi's our current attorney general, there is no optimism that we're going to see any movement on rescheduling. And rescheduling to Schedule 3 which is something that we've said to the Biden administration. It's something that we continue to say to the Trump administration, is not going to solve any of the issues we have with the current legal system we have with cannabis. I mean, it's moving to Schedule 3 is not going to change state level legalization. It's not going to do anything but lift some of the research barriers. And why does the government want to lift those research barriers? It's not to help develop cultivars that's going to help people. It's about a profit motive for a political donor class that has moved into the cannabis industry. For example, we see the folks behind some of the largest dispensaries in Florida lining up behind some of the folks in Florida who are running for ag commissioner. And I think that there's a lot to be said about where we're at with cannabis and the corporate structure, and how corporate cannabis is no different in a lot of ways than prohibition, like diet prohibition, if you will. Because it's not like we have safe, affordable access to good quality medicine. I mean, that still exists only in the legacy market, and only if you have someone that you trust from a solid source. I mean, Carlos, I know you're there in the studio, but you're a patient in Florida. In your professor of cannabis. What's your thoughts on corporate weed? Is it better, or is the stuff you get from the plug still hitting over the corporate stuff?
I want to preface this by saying that everybody who smokes marijuana apparently smokes the best marijuana, and I also tend to agree with every single one of them. But I mean, there's some good stuff with corporate cannabis, right? Like there's COAs, there's this push, whether or not they all follow it, there's like this push to be transparent, to treat the product like it's something that should be safe for the customer. But that being said, too, I mean, what was it, about 100 years of going to the plugs, going to a plug, and nobody died, nobody had any real major issues, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I think corporate weed is cool, but when you're treating a product, something like cannabis, as a product, that could hurt somebody. You know what I mean?
That was my issue. I mean, as those of you who know my history, back in 1979, I was smoking the stuff that was just out there, and it just so happens that I got a joint that was passed to me that was filled with paraquat, because that at the time, that's what the government was doing to try to cut down on domestic smoking, was by taking crops that were either bound for or already in the country and spraying them with this defoliant paraquat, figuring that people would back away because they wouldn't know if it was dangerous or not. Well, we didn't know what was dosed and what was not dosed as far as that was concerned. So we just figured, screw it, we're going to smoke all of it, because we figured the amount that was out there with paraquat was so small, but it wasn't so small. And obviously I was one of many people who got hurt on that one. So it wasn't the legacy market stuff that hurt me. It was the government interference that hurt. That is the issue. And I think corporate folks, they can take the money they make, and they make a fuckload of money, to buy the best cultivation people, the best genetics, and produce the best product, if they want to put the money into the product as opposed to into their corporate overlords.
Well, Gary, that's to bring up a good point, right? That this is something that I've encountered in Maryland. This past legislative session, was that greenhouse growers, particularly in the cannabis industry, were fighting for collective bargaining rights, because what we see, regardless if it's a blue state like Maryland or a red state like Florida, is that the corporate cannabis folks do not treat their workers with a level of respect deserving of putting out a product that is going to be top tier. And how you treat the people that handle the product oftentimes results in how good the end product is. And what we see in Florida is people that are, essentially, being asked to work in unsafe conditions. And if your job doesn't give a fuck about you, then why would you give a fuck about putting your heart and soul into something? When you feel valued at your job, that makes all the difference in the world. And I think that there is no better person to really hit on the value of having a good union job than our special guest who is joining us on stage now, and that is the Senator-elect from District 14 in Tampa Bay, Brian Nathan. Welcome, Mr. Senator-elect.
Thank you, guys. How are you doing?
Congratulations. Woo!
All right. Union man in the house. IBEW on the score.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would like to just take credit at this point in time saying that as you went on our podcast, you just, you won this election. So it must have been the reason why you won, right?
Of course.
Yeah. For the folks who haven't been watching the numbers on this is incredible. I mean, we're talking about approximately 28% of the electorate that could voted in your district, and yet there was actually more people who voted Republican, who voted as Republicans, I should say, in your district, and yet you won by 5.05%.
Yep.
Which is just about as Carlos has on his head right now.
After the after the ballot hearing, the canvassing board determined it was 405 votes. If we had 400 votes, it would have been an automatic machine recount.
Wow. Well, thank you to the 5 voters who watched on the rotation and voted for Brian Nathan. We appreciate y'all.
Yeah, that's amazing. The idea that this really drives home the point to me that, voting really does matter. People say your vote doesn't count. When you see races like this, and then there was one in, North Carolina or something like that, it was a 23 vote difference. Yeah, every vote counts. It really does.
Now, what sector of the population voted for you more than you expected it to? Was the Hispanic population? Where did the
there was a lot of
tell you?
Out the Hispanic population. Where I live in Town and Country, it's a very Hispanic community, and the Democratic Hispanic Caucus here in Hillsborough County did an amazing job reaching out to them. Luis Salazar, he's another candidate. He's actually running to be my representative. He spent a lot of time in the Hispanic community stumping for me when he should have been running his own race. So I greatly appreciate that. And yeah, I made the rounds, talked to a lot of people, but that really helped. I had some allies in South Tampa that were helping me reach out to Republicans in South Tampa to really bring those people over and show what I could actually deliver for them. And we started to build this coalition of regular folks that just want a better life. And that's what ended up delivering on Election Day.
Well, we appreciate you putting in the sweat equity. I actually laughed at some of the negative advertisements that the local political parties across the aisle were throwing at you. They managed to find any photo where you were sweating in it. And I thought in a lot of ways it's ironic because it's like, yeah, this guy's putting in the sweat equity to make sure, that he wins, to make sure that he's representing the people. So, and I don't know how many text messages I got. I mean, for every text message I got from you, I got at least 3 saying that you were a horrible person. And I'm like, have they even met this guy? But that's what happens when you have carpetbaggers from out of the county, out of the city, trying to run for office. They have no idea of the ground game. They have no idea of the neighborhood. But you do. You just said it. You're in Town and Country. You're among the folks who are going to work every day, busting their cans to make ends meet for their family. Shout out to the Democratic Hispanic Caucus. I'm actually a past president of the caucus, and shout out to Luis for the way he's taking it in a new direction.
Yeah, go LULAC.
Yeah, and shout out to the folks at LULAC who do voter education. All in all, there is the district you're in is a very diverse district. It's made up of people from every working class demographic. It's made up of folks in the middle class. You even got some wealthy folks in the South Tampa area. And you managed to build a coalition that made all the difference in the world in a time where hyper-partisanness really is the name of the game. You had so many folks crossed either over the aisle or who don't identify with either party, saying, you know what, that's the guy that I want to represent us. And I'm proud to say I voted for you. I made sure my family voted for you. So, Mr. Senator-elect, that it's just awesome to see what you're doing. Now, here's the interesting thing. What next? Because legislative session is over, but yet the governor wants to rig the maps for the midterms coming up, and he wants to call y'all back in. So are you going to have a say-so in that? Like, how's all this going to work out? Is he going to try to delay seating you? We know the governor is let me not use that word. It's shady on so many ways. Sorry, Gary. I have to catch myself in the parlance sometimes. My bad, brother.
No, shice is good.
Right now we do have that special session. April 20th is when it starts for redistricting. There will be another one to deliver a budget, because there is one constitutional duty that the legislature has to deliver every year on, and that is the annual budget. We don't have one right now, and it needs to be wrapped up and ready to go by July 1st. So at a minimum, we've got those 2 sessions.
Well, Mr. Senator-elect, can I just chime in real quick? Yeah. The state legislature has one fucking job, and you're telling me that they met for 60 days for this one job they're supposed to do, and they didn't do it, and now they have to go get overtime to do it, essentially. Like, I'm having a hard time running that through my head. Help me out with that, because I know the folks watching are probably like, what?
Yeah, man. My question is it just that the 60-day session no longer works for us? Because this is not the first time that they've had to go a little over. Last year they went 105 days out of the 60. Maybe it's time to change the session. Maybe it's time to stop having a part-time legislature. What you think?
Given what we've seen the last couple of years, I think there is a decent argument to be made for that. I've had a couple conversations with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle already about the budget. I'm going to basically be drinking from a fire hose for the next 2 weeks, trying to wrap my arms around this. But at the end of the day, we have to deliver. It's our job to deliver for constituents. So that's just going to be top of mind for me when I go up there. I realize everybody's looking at this race, and things have started to shift, and there's a lot of excitement around that. But right now, I've really got to be laser focused on making sure we deliver a budget that delivers for you guys.
Now, when are you going to be sworn in? Have they said yet?
So I've contacted the Senate staff up in Tallahassee, and as far as I'm aware, they're going to gavel us in for the first special session, and it will be part of that first order of business. It'll be one of the first things they do. That's what I've been told, so that's what I'm expecting right now.
Man, what a great 420 to be sworn in as a state senator. That's awesome.
Well, hopefully Renee is driving. You're not driving, right?
I am actually with my wife and kids right now. I'm taking a few hours for myself. We're headed to the beach. Just a chance to unwind. But here's my wife. Say hi, Tanya.
Hi.
And the girls are in the back.
Hi.
So, yeah, we're taking a couple hours just to go relax. It's been a wild ride. So, yeah, I just need to unwind a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm definitely going to smoke one for you on your inauguration, just to let you know.
I appreciate it.
We will definitely have a ceremonial rotation celebrating our new senator. So thank you, Mr. Senator-elect. Have a great weekend with your family, and thank you for taking the time to join us here in the rotation and take the victory lap. We'd love to have you on after the session's over, and you can tell us what it's all like being a senator in Florida. As Gary likes to say, one of the Somalian warlords.
Yeah.
I'd love to come back, guys. Just reach out when you're ready, okay?
Thanks for not telling me your kids are in the back, because I would have tempered my language a little bit, because, you know, but what the heck? You're in Florida. Life's a beach, right?
Yeah, it is a beach. We're headed to the beach right now.
Have a great one, Senator-elect.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yep.
Now, the one guy that I have not had a chance to introduce yet is a guy right below me, our erstwhile engineer and the proprietor of Chillum CBD and mushroom dispensary in Ybor City, and our deputy director, Carlos Angel Jose Ermida.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. That was crazy. The show started, and it was like there were like 3 Garys in my ear, and I couldn't handle it.
Oh, I could handle much more than that.
Yeah, there was like two or three Gary echoes in my ear.
Carlos, if I had 3 Garys, I trust and believe there would be no state legislator that would sleep. I would use all of them to their maximum advantage and all their skill sets to annoy every legislator into legalizing it. And that is the problem, because Gary will corner them in a narrow hallway, and then they'll have to either duck into their secret office entrance or go the opposite way. But if I had 3, they'd be boxed in and they'd have to have the conversation.
I've got a picture of Gary like out in front of like the 3 Garys out in front of the legislator's office, like just pointing at each other like Spider-Man. You're gonna go in there? You Gary.
With the senators stuck in the middle.
My only question is, if there were 3 Garys, we'd be always sleeping in our cars in Tallahassee because we would get to pay for a hotel.
So,
but we have another guest on our show today, and here we go. Ben Braver is a science teacher who is running for election now. I can say, and you're running for House District 65,
yes,
which includes what area?
So that's all of South Tampa and then West Chase. And before we go on, I want to say I'm really sorry. I smoked like 5 joints before I got here. So my voice is like this. No, we were doing the No Kings protest. It was amazing. I actually saw Gary there. It was great. And I was shouting for about 5 hours straight. So my voice might be a little bit weaker than normal.
We'll try not to stress it too much, but we want to get as much information as we can on you, because 65 is a very interesting district. The lady who's in there right now is what's like Moms for Liberty. You look at her picture on the state house site. She has this helter-skelter look about her face, which really kind of freaks the hell out of me. Thing. But I am interested in knowing, because I know you ran against Danny Burgess last time.
Yes.
At the last election, who was very well respected on the other side. So that was a really tough one to climb. And I appreciate the fact that you tackled that. Danny's a friend, but hey, elections matter, and everybody has to participate in that kind of situation. And so now you're going for this other rather important district in Hillsborough County. So what made you, as a science teacher, at a time when Latipo is our damn Surgeon General and who's an ivermectin salesman at best? So with science being under attack, is that the reason why you're running for the House district?
So that's a huge reason why we're running for the House district. We can see the same attacks on science, the same attacks on basic evidence-based practices across the entirety of our government. From the attacks on science, the attacks on education. Starting with No Child Left Behind and all the defunding of the public school system, putting all the money into our private schools. We see that our kids are testing at lower rates. We see that they're not getting the resources they need to achieve their full potential. It's the same basic attack on science, on the fundamentals of the American system, on evidence-based policy that we're seeing in education. That we're also seeing right here with the weed issue. I mean, we know that marijuana is less dangerous than alcohol. Let's say, just as an easy example, we have evidence of that, mountains of evidence of that for decades. And does it matter? No. What matters to representatives is the lobbyists, is the money that's going to them. That's part of the reason why I'm running too, because we need representatives that represent the people. The people of Florida voted for marijuana legalization. They voted overwhelmingly for medical marijuana legalization and now for recreational. But do our representatives care? No. That's why we need representatives who actually care about the people and what they want. That's the major reason I'm running.
Now, people are often asking us if we are Democratic leaning on this show. We try to stay independent as much as possible. But I'll be honest with you. What I've found, and you kind of hinted at this recently, is that a lot of the special interest money, especially like from GEO, from the private prisons and things of that sort, most of that money does not go to the Democrats. It does go to the Republicans. And interestingly enough, they're the ones who put out all the prohibitional bills, all the ones that make it continue to be illegal so that they can arrest more people, put more folks in jail. And that is frustrating, because I would really like to see a Republican who's willing to say, I'm not going to take GEO money because I don't believe that people should be locked up for simple possession and have their lives ruined. And I want to fix things, but I haven't seen it yet. Not much. I mean, we came close to Joe Gruder's.
I've seen one, Gary. Seen one.
Who?
And that's Matt the welder, who's running for commissioner of agriculture against Will Simpson.
Yeah, and I'll see Republican voters say that all the time. Republican voters want more freedom. They want less government interfering in their life. And the Republican representatives don't care.
Yeah, I think there's a disconnect. And this stretches, the higher up you go, the totem pole, it stretches across the aisle, you know, regardless of what party's in power, because at a certain level of wealth, you can essentially set the board to your advantage. You can primary folks in the Democratic Party who are going to, you know, co-sign what you want done policy wise, and you could squash down progressive voices that are advocating for, you know, equality and working folks, and the same goes on the Republican side. There is a, you know, there are far more working class people in this country on both sides of the aisle than there are wealthy elites in both parties. But what we see is that there's a political donor class that influences so much of the policy. And that's why we see the big disconnect. You pointed it out, Ben, is that the voters of Florida, who a majority of voters in Florida tend to have voted Republican in the last several cycles, have, you know, seen that the folks they're putting in the Florida legislature don't have the best interest at heart. They're not taking up any bills in regards to cannabis. You know, we saw one bill this year on cannabis make it through one chamber, and that was it. That was the only movement we saw. It doesn't even really count in the grand scheme of things, and that was to reduce the fee for veterans from $75 for a medical marijuana card to $15. That's all the movement we saw. We didn't see any movement on worker protections, so you can still get fired from your job, even if you work in the cannabis industry. I mean, look, even the listeners are saying, you know, you're getting fired from your jobs in the cannabis industry. You know, you could still be precluded from a job for being a medical patient and failing a urinalysis, which is mind-boggling to me that we're still using urinalysis in the 21st century as an indicator of impairment, because it's not. And that's something that, you know, regardless of what state, whether it's been a blue state like Maryland that I've worked in, or a red state like Florida, you know, there's a disconnect from legislators on this. And Ben, I hope that should you win, that's something that you'll be willing to champion. We need worker protections in this state for medical marijuana patients. People should not get fired from their jobs for something that we're saying is legal. I mean, that's ludicrous to me. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. And one of the major problems with worker protections in this state is we don't even have a Department of Labor with the organization that's supposed to be protecting these workers. We don't even have one of those. Now, that leads to more wage theft and the whole other issues. But on what you're talking about with, you know, marijuana and the use of it, yeah, we need evidence-based practices. We can't go off our representatives' feelings and what they think might be the best, you know, response to this stuff. We actually have to use the research that we have. Now, unfortunately, because marijuana is so heavily regulated, there is one agency over in the University of Mississippi that grows marijuana that can be studied. And you have to get very special provisions to be able to study marijuana. So they're restricting your ability to even make good, sound, evidence-based policy. Beyond that, with the petitions like we were talking about, yeah, the voters of Florida voted to legalize marijuana, and the Republican legislator ignored it. And then to stop the voters from using their voice again, they increased the requirements, or they massively increased the requirements you need to be able to get anything on the ballot. Now you need a $1 million bond before you start getting signatures. All the signatures that you get have to be gotten from people who are in Florida, and they'll you know, say that a signature was bad if that voter wasn't an active voter. They could be registered to vote, but if they weren't an active voter, that signature could be bad. There are all these ways that our representatives trying to take away the voice of the people, which is why we saw Brian Nathan flip that seat in Tampa, because yeah, the people don't like this anymore. Even MacDill Air Force Base, an Air Force base, which should traditionally be incredibly Republican, voted for Brian Nathan, a Democrat, because they're sick of their voice being taken away and their votes being ignored.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. The governor, you know, and his former chief of staff, who's now the attorney general, have done everything they can to disconnect the will of the voters from policy, whether it's been putting up hurdles around grassroots constitutional amendments, whether it's been attacking the signature process, whether it's been funneling money illegally through the governor's wife's foundation to purchase ads to defeat the reproductive rights amendment and the adult use legalization amendments in the last election cycle. And people are frustrated with it. They're tired of it. And then most recently, you have the Attorney General of Florida telling the NFL that they need to get rid of the Rooney Rule, which basically requires them to at least interview a qualified Black coach for head coaching positions. And I mean, that's just nuts. I mean, what are they going to do? Get rid of the Jags, Bucks, and Dolphins because they decided to interview Black coaches? That there is so much wrong with the current Attorney General of Florida and the current governor. And the people are saying, they just need to take a hike. They need to go. But the only way to get rid of them is at the ballot box. And so this next election is going to matter. And flipping legislative seats to folks who are going to actually make a difference is important. And I think that's where you feel like you can be of help, right?
Yes, exactly. You mentioned earlier ran against Danny Burgess for state Senate last cycle. That was a really tough race. One, because that is one of the most entrenched people in politics. Not necessarily in a bad way, but his family has been in politics for ages. He was in politics since he was 18, so he's a very entrenched person. Hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars at his disposal whenever. But he introduced bills to let children work till midnight on school night, which is horrible. So I ran against him because the people needed their voice. We got 107,000 votes, shifting that district 1 point to the left, while every other district in the area shifted 9 points to the right because of the 2024 cycle. And then here for Tampa, we know we can flip this. We know that we can win this. We know we can actually represent the people. We know we can fully fund our schools. We can lower insurance costs. We can make sure there's real government accountability because change is possible. There are all these problems that we see that are real hard problems, but the solutions are there when we use evidence-based policy, when we listen to the people.
Yeah. Now you're a teacher and you're running against somebody who's part of that Moms for Liberty group, who is all about what they call it.
That was the wrong one. I wanted that
there
one.
You go. For Liberty is all about what they call parent rights in regards to schooling is concerned, where they're saying, why should we have teachers telling what we should have on the school curriculum when we have parents? Now, with all due respect, my folks were fairly intelligent folks, but they wouldn't want to teach a class. But the fact is, you're a teacher. You're trying to run for office on a teacher's salary, which has got to be hell.
So yeah, in Florida, we have the 50th lowest average wage for teachers in the entire country. It's horrible. And then you get maybe a $200 raise every year. So the lowest on average and barely any raises. And then you have to fight for those raises every year. It's not even guaranteed. The union has to fight for those raises. Now, let me talk a little bit about the school system. There are two huge problems in it when it comes to the things that Moms for Liberty is talking about. They say that the curriculum's off, that it's, indoctrinating the kids. There are two problems. Well, there are three problems. First, if I had time to indoctrinate the kids, I'd be using that to get some sleep. We spend so much time. If we had any extra time at all, trust us, we'd be using it on grading them better, not on indoctrinating them or whatever. The second thing is, and I told this to a lot of parents, if you're scared about what your kid's reading, about the ideas your kids might be having, talk to them. The teachers aren't trying to shape them into mini them. They're trying to give them the tools to learn. And if you want your kid to think the way you do on this stuff, talk to them. If you try to ban this stuff, if you try to take away weed from a kid, what are they going to do? Go right to it. If you want them to be smart about stuff, you talk to them. You don't try to make it taboo because these teachers care about these kids. Second of all, there's a real problem with curriculum. The real problem with curriculum is that we're letting these huge money organizations that create learning programs on the laptop invade our schools. And these teachers are trained not to teach the kids, not to interact with them one-on-one, but to sit them down in front of a laptop and have them go through learning games for hours on hours every single day. We have a huge teacher attrition problem. We have so few well-qualified teachers because they're taking money away from our education system. And that leads to more teachers getting even more done with education, even more burnt out, leading to a worse teacher attrition problem. And then more kids not getting education, just sitting in front of laptops, basically doing learning games. There are real problems with education and with the curriculum in this state. And we work together, we can solve that. We can put the funds that this state wants in education back in education. $5 billion of our public dollars for education have gone to private school vouchers. 75% of the people getting those vouchers could already afford a public education. We can have an exemplary education system in this state if we choose to. The Moms for Liberty people, they want their kids to be smart and healthy and happy. And we agree with that. And we want to make a better curriculum, and we need their help with that.
Well, you know, there's something interesting that really struck out to me with this, you know, second DeSantis administration since re-election is the book banning, the just anti-intellectualism that we see. I mean, hell, even sociology in the state of Florida will no longer be taught at our universities as part of general education because of this administration. And you hit on some real key points. One, you know, as far as education for the kids, you know, we're seeing money diverted from the public education system to private entities. And many a times those entities have ties to donors or even the politicians themselves. And so this whole rise of charter schools and vouchers, you know, they use a small segment of the population who are in failing schools, and they give them those vouchers and they tout that as, oh, look, we're helping uplift folks out of failed public schools. But in the grand scheme of things, you're just diverting public money into private pockets, and you're enriching a certain amount of people.
And they're not limiting the amount those private schools can increase their tuition. So it's not helping the impoverished families.
Yeah. And then you touched on another thing about legalization in the kids. And that is always what we see from this administration and from the leadership in Tallahassee is what about the kids? What about the kids? And interesting enough, a recent set of data that was done by Penn State University, which looked at inpatient discharge records of 2.8 million young people in 13 legal states, showed that according to the multi-state analysis, there was no consistent evidence that state non-medical cannabis legalization, that's adult use, it's recreational, whatever words you want to use, was associated with an increase in the prevalence of cannabis use disorder diagnosis among adolescents. So Penn State looked at 2.8 million young people who went to the hospital. These are people between the ages of 10 and 17. And they found no increase among teens using in adult use legal states. So there is something to be said, like you said, about a regulated, safe system that keeps it out of the hands of the kids. And in the grand scheme of things, the person you're running against, Gary, I made the mistake. You said it. You made a comment about what they look like. But when I Googled who Ben is running against, this scared the shit out of me.
I told you.
That face scared the living dog shit out of me. I was like, oh shit. And then I was like, I got to show it to people. Hold on. You know, just sitting there for those watching. Look, Ben, who as our guest is running against this person.
Which face do you want to see representing you?
Yeah, your face up there. There you go.
Yeah.
I tell you.
Now,
this scared the shit out of me again.
Wait, we have high viewers. You might not want to show that. Give them a heart attack. Now,
I can tell you there were times when I was smoking catnip and I had better visions.
now I wanted to hit on the regulation point they're talking about. We have the study of 2.8 million kids, and we see that it doesn't increase their any great disorders with them. But there's an even more clear thing that everybody can see when they're driving around. There is a smoke shop on every corner, completely deregulated, selling products that we have no idea what's going into them because it would need Delta 8, whatever. We need it to be regulated. That's why the organization on Prop 4, was it 3, the other cycle, was Safe and Smart Florida. We want to be safe. We want to be smart. And if you let deregulated smoke shops go up everywhere, that's when you're going to see kids getting it because these smoke shops don't care.
No, and then even then the legislature swings the pendulum too far hard, and there are smoke shops that are following the rules that go through the order. I mean, you're sitting in one right now where there's a certificate of authenticity on the products, and they've been tested. And then you're right, there are other ones that will get a lease get a whole bunch of products, sell cheap Chinese glass to you at a premium, and even bootleg raws, and then they'll be shut down if they even survive their business within 6 months. But the enforcement mechanisms we have in the state also are not enough. And Carlos, what are your thoughts on what Ben just said around the smoke shop?
I mean, I think oh man, I'm really getting used to this new camera, guys. I think Ben's got a point. You see, Ben's looking at it from somebody who's not inside the industry and wants things to be safe, And I think that's an important thing to note. I think Nikki Fried put down some great regulations for hemp in the state. I think people don't realize that hemp needs certificate of authenticity in the state. It needs to come from reliable sources. It needs to be, have certain things on the packaging in order to make sure that everything's transparent. Here's the issue: it's not regulated very well. My store is regulated like a motherfucker just because I, part of Suncoast NORML. I go up to Tallahassee. I give public comment sometimes, and I'm also put my store in the media quite a bit in order to try to get some marketing. But my store is regulated like a motherfucker, but that store down the block ain't, and I don't know if the other store down the block even has a hemp certificate and is paying their dues to the state in order to do this product, and then you get situations like what's going on now with Smokey Jones. Smokey Jones is a smoke shop here in Tampa that plays by the rules. They're the first smoke shop in the state of Florida that received a hemp permit, and they're honestly they're visionaries in the game. That smoke shop is where I first saw hemp flower, and I first saw that like a dispensary can be made around this product, right? And they break down his door. We've had him on the show before. They break down his door, Tampa Police Department, and they arrest him. They arrest his employees. They take him to court. They throw the book at him. They say that his regulated products are illegal, and that's why they're there. And he's going with it in the court system right now. He had a court date on Monday.
Yeah, I mean they seized his inventory. So like, how do you do business if the cops have all your stuff? And then
Smokey Jones is in the media, and he's got Minardi representing him, and we did well to show his case, but there were 10 other smoke shops that have been raided in the area.
Yeah,
have permits, and unfortunately they're run by immigrants, so that might have been an issue there.
Well, interesting enough, you make that comment because Tampa Police Assistant Chief was fired this week, essentially, with no explanation, and she's the highest ranking Asian American in the police force. There is a lot of house cleaning that needs to happen at TPD, and it never happened. It never happened under Jane Castor when she was chief. It has not happened as mayor. And there is a lot of concern of whether or not the police, I mean, hell, we see it every week at Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. I mean, Chad Chronister has deputies consistently being arrested or being found out whether they've cheated on their exams or they're beating their wives. There is definitely systemic issues within our police departments locally in Tampa Bay, and they need to do better. And if you speak out, you end up putting a target on your back. And it's sad to say that is where we're at in this state, in our hometown.
Definitely a thing, because I noticed that we talked about Smart and Safe earlier, but there's another organization in the state that advocates for hemp stores that do the right thing, called Healthy Alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very grassroots. They don't have true leave money like Smart and Safe, and they're there fucking giving public comment, influencing their members paying members to go and take their time to go up to Tallahassee and give public comment, to give their customers, legislators emails and bother the shit out of these legislators. And it's these stores that do that get harassed by the Department of Agriculture.
And let's remember, this harassment happening to, stores selling hemp and medicinal products, while opioids, which has been a scourge across the entire nation, are being institutionally sold en masse, prescribed en masse. that actually doing harm to this country, and they're choosing to harass small shop owners instead.
Yeah.
And in Florida, we also have a bill that was filed several years ago that makes it illegal to have cannabis on site at a rehab center. Whereas we know that cannabis can be used to help get people off of opioids safely, get them through the opioid poisoning section where they get all the DTs and everything else. And we have been trying to get opioid dependency as a qualifying condition for medical cannabis so that we can get that product back into those centers so they can use the product to get people off of opioids. And we have been fighting at every angle, and we know where that money is coming from.
Yeah.
Well, Gary, one of the things that really struck out to me was when I saw this documentary on a rehab center in Maine that used cannabis as part of their opioid addiction treatment regimen. And I saw a guy wake up out of a cold sweat on the camera with delirium tremors. He was shaking. He was horrible. And then I saw him pull out a dab rig. He did a dab right on his bedside and was able to go back to sleep and have a decent night's sleep and actually, work on healing and feeling healthy. And Governor DeSantis says, no, we're not going to do that. And that just sets me aflame. To see that's the policy now, and that's some bullshit,
Yeah. Or you can't get medical marijuana from the VA because it's federally still legal. There's so many veterans that could be helped by this aren't, or at least they have to find ways of getting around that. Oh, let me ask you all a question. Trump took marijuana off the Schedule 1. Now,
No. He said he wrote a piece of paper saying he intends to have the Attorney General look at it. And that is what you just said is what we see a lot of right-wing Trump supporters say to us on the show. Oh, Trump rescheduled. He didn't do shit. He sent a nicely worded email to Pam Bondi, and Pam Bondi ain't done a goddamn thing with it.
She has not signed off on the executive order yet, and that came out in November. So she's going for the longest range for EO not to be signed off on.
So thank you for correcting that misinformation. I appreciate that. But what I really wanted to get at was Trump is clearly doing that as a political ploy. He doesn't care about, how many people he puts in prison or whatever. Does this mean
the crowd loves it? The crowd loves that.
Does this mean that I think that we know this generally, but with even Donald Trump caving on this, does it mean that the push for legalization of marijuana is really taking this country by storm across the entire political spectrum?
Well, 71% plus voted for medical cannabis. Almost 60% voted for recreational. And that is far more than just the amount in each party kind of situation. Mm-hmm. So we know that is moving forward. And yet we can't seem to get it passed because of the fact that there are obstacles being put in our way coming from the executive and the legislative branch and even the judicial branch at times too, which at this point in time seems to be solely a portion of one particular party on a supermajority basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's been the issue that we've been having to fight for decades now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think we've had a health-based governor since Lawton Childs.
I just want to comment on what's going on here. I think Trump realizes that both Republican and Democrat populations want legalization. I think Trump also realizes that Republicans are getting paid by private prisons and pharmaceutical companies and a bunch of other lobbying efforts to not legalize. And I think he, needed a distraction. So I think nothing's going to fucking happen because Pam Bondi fucking hates weed. Trust us. We know that from the state of Florida here.
She went to high school. She went to my high school, King High School in Tampa.
Yeah, she was very outspoken against medical marijuana in the state.
I wrote my master's on it, Carlos. That's how far back she's been against legalizing weed.
We have been lobbying in the state for, how fucking long now, guys? Like fucking 15 years.
And it's really not against legalizing weed. I don't think they care. Maybe Pam Bondi does care. Maybe if she's been against it that long. Yeah. But it's about keeping money in their donors' pockets. Yeah. It's about keeping money in alcohol and opioid producers' pockets. And for-profit prisons.
So now,
and for-profit prisons is definitely their biggest donor. You see Geo Group, when you go up to Tallahassee and you're questioning yourself, like, why are they overregulating hemp stores? And why are they attacking, the cannabis industry. And then you go look and you'll see the finance reports, and you'll see Geo there. You'll constantly see Geo there, and Geo is behind so many of the immigration detention centers. And so, you going back to what you asked earlier, with Trump, is this a political ploy? What he sees is that legal weed got just as many votes as he did in Florida. And so he has to do something before it gets more votes than him, because it got more votes that, in the past when it comes to medical. And again, this is a guy who is obsessed with polling numbers. So he's going to do everything he can to hold on to them, despite the fact he has no more elections to run.
Yeah, doing a bad job of it.
One thing that really stood out to me, really observing this past election with Trump and Kamala, with Harris, it was that Kamala Harris had on her website a well written out plan on her economic policies, right? Trump, you clicked, I think he had a page for policies, but like you clicked on it and it was like videos coming soon, something like that.
Concepts of a plan.
Yeah,
that's how he gets his security briefing too, I think.
So you talk to Trump supporters about policy, and they'll tell you straight up, Trump thinks this or wants this or does this, and it's because they heard him mention it in a fucking speech. And this fucking guy says everything.
Yeah,
he says fucking everything. He'll say one thing in one speech and say another thing in another speech, and he does that on purpose because Trump supporters don't, or I specify Trump supporters because I want to acknowledge that a lot of Republicans are falling for his bullshit. But Trump supporters are, don't want policy. They just fucking have some religious idea about this guy.
So that's why when I talk to Trump supporters, I don't talk about Trump. I ran in State Senate District 23, which is a very red area, right against Danny Burgess. And I shifted that a point to the left when, again, everything shifted 9 points to the right. Because I didn't talk to donors. I just went into the community and talked to people. And it was plus 13% Republican. And when I would talk to them, I would ask them, and this is what I ask every single person I talk to, what do you want to see change in Florida? And when you ask them what they want, what progress they want to be made, they give you progressive answers. When you talk to them about like what they hate or about what Donald Trump said, yeah, he said everything so they can pick and choose whatever. Yeah. And if you go against Trump, you're going against them. But if you ask them what they want to see happen in Florida, they'll give you more progressive stuff than Bernie. They'll give you some of the best policy you've ever heard, because what Trump does really, really well is calling out the system as rigged and then rigging it more for himself. What Democrats hadn't done well until Bernie or AOC or Zoran is calling the system out as rigged. They had better policy. They had more progressive policy that would help more people, but slowly. Bernie, Zoran, AOC, they say the system is rigged. The elites have been working against you. They've been working with the opioid companies or the private prison groups and not giving you the things that you want, like legal marijuana and not being arrested needlessly. We need to be able to call the system as rigged and then actually fix it. When you talk to Republicans and say, yeah, Trump called this system as rigged and then got $4 billion in the past year, they hate that. When he said, yeah, he said no war and then started a war with Iran and invaded Venezuela, they hate that. You just need to get them onto what they want to see change, and they'll give you amazing policy.
You mentioned the war in Iran. About 10 days before the war kicked off, a company that Eric Trump is invested in got a $1 billion contract from the Pentagon to produce drones. And all I could think in my head is, oh my God, we're going to be making Trump drones and actually using them in a war zone. And I can just think of every other thing he's ever slapped his name on, and it scares the shit out of me. So I came with this thought experiment. If he put out Trump branded weed, would you smoke it? And I want Trump supporters, if you're watching and you're a Trump supporter, make a comment, chime in right now, because I want to know if you would smoke Trump branded weed, because I damn sure wouldn't fly on a Trump airplane or matter of fact, if I went in a Radio Shack and I saw all the drones and I saw the Trump branded drone, I know for a fact that is not the one I'm buying. Oh, yeah. So help me out with this. If you would you buy Trump branded weed? And then Carlos, what are your thoughts? What dispensary would sell that shit? Would it be Truly? Would it be Soterra? which one of these corporate cannabis guys would carry Trump weed in their dispensaries? I'm just,
you know what I want to know? Anheuser-Busch is one of the most staunch anti-weed companies because, of course, they're beer and everything. But they make Bud Light. What better cannabis name is there than Bud Light?
Now, I do have here some genuine Trump gummies made by our Dan over in California. This one is Bad Hombres Party Time Gummies, and it shows Trump with a handlebar mustache and a Marshall's cap on the top here. I also had one that it was called Raspberry Riot, which had the picture of the January 6th in the background. I mean, I would not eat these. I'm sorry, dude. I did not touch any of the George Foreman gummies that had ears with a chunk taken out of them either. It's just bad marketing.
You mean Mike Tyson gummies? George
Tyson. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah,
we had a Trump pipe that literally like it stood up on its hind legs and like, and you would like shove the weed in his ass and smoke out of his hair.
You know, now maybe that's the type that Pam Bondi might smoke out of.
It's interesting. You actually graduated from King, which is where Bondi came from. And King, for those people who don't know about Tampa, is one of the 3 or 4 pillars of major high schools, along with Blake and Central and Plant.
Hold on, Central. What the hell is Central?
Yeah, never mind.
You better put some respect on it, Gary, and call it what it is. The Big Red, Hillsborough Senior High School. Thank you very much. You see right there.
And now you know where Chris came from.
That's right. That's right.
This campus, I'll give it to Hill. They have nothing else good, but they have a nice campus.
Well, I got to admit,
just like King, we have IB program, and so you know we have a level of intellectual and scholarship that happens at a handful of high schools in the Bay Area. So.
At least he did not bring up the thing about the graves in King High School under the ground.
Yeah, that was found out my junior year there. It was
damn.
Yeah,
they built it over a cemetery.
Yep.
Just like in that movie with Poltergeist. There you
go. They built the Robles Park projects down the street from Hillsborough off of MLK in Central over an African cemetery. So there's definitely a lot to be said about the city of Tampa's development policy back in the 50s and 60s. So
yeah, and today.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, we're in a major. You know, let's transition a bit. We've been talking a lot of shit about the Trump, and we talked about the Florida legislature, but there are some major issues that it doesn't matter how you vote, you're going to be affected by it. It doesn't matter how you give a fuck or feel about anybody in office. We're in a water crisis in Florida right now. Our water table is at an all-time low. And they, at least in certain areas, are pumping the reclaimed water back into the ground to stop sinkholes. But then you have folks like in Polk County drilling new wells at exactly the same place where they're pumping the shitty water back into because we have a water crisis. So, I mean, how do we even address this as the Florida legislature, Ben? I mean, you know, especially considering that half of them are owned by Mosaic and the other half are owned by the people poisoning the damn water.
Yeah. And the other half want data centers, which is going to create another water crisis, which is hopefully you can breach.
Yes. Luckily, I think we did get regulation on AI data centers in Florida, actually, which is good. And I will be pushing 100% for them. We do not need them here. We don't need them. And we definitely don't need them here. On the water crisis as a whole, I was a science teacher. I taught a lot about the environment. So also as a person with eyes who loves Florida nature is incredibly important to me. And the biggest issue when it comes to water is the biggest issue when it comes to everything. Big money. We had a representative, Randy Maggard, out of Zephyr Hills, who just introduced a bill to disallow our communities from regulating how much water companies can take and the quality of the water that the city actually has access to. Guess which water company Randy Maggard gets huge donations from? Zephyr Hills.
Zephyr Hills, which is part of Nestle. And by the way, he was also chair of Swift Mud in our area.
Really? I didn't know that. Swift Mud is the water management people, for anyone who isn't very in tune in Florida politics. Yeah, and so he's selling out the water for the city of Zephyr Hills to the company of Zephyr Hills. If you've looked at the roadmap to 270 for Florida, they did a map of what the land development is going to look like all the way up to 270. It's kind of scary. I mean, there's barely any green space from Tampa to Orlando, and that means it's going to destroy the last remaining natural wildlife corridor going from the actual South Tampa over to North Tampa, which has destroyed so much of our swamplands and wetlands. And then what you're talking about with Mosaic, they pretty much have free reign to dig up and then let their excess sediment and nutrients spill out into our waterways, creating these huge red-green algae blooms and this toxic water. So we can't use the beautiful beaches so many people move down here specifically for. So much of the problems with our water has nothing to do with natural causes. It's because we're letting companies take all the water, make it disgusting, and spill it back into our estuaries and waterways.
All right. Well, Ben, I know we're coming close to the end here, but you have a funding issue like all candidates do, especially those who don't take money from, say Nestle or Mosaic or things of that sort, which I guess are not going to be too happy with you. But how can people help you out? How can people help you in your campaign?
Thank you so much. Go to benbraver.com. Pretty easy to remember, benbraver.com. Also, we're on social media all over the place as Ben Braver FL. Now, onto donations. Yes, I need them. I hate asking for it. Obviously, we know, as we've been talking about through this entire video, money is the biggest problem when it comes to politics, which is why grassroots organizations are super important. If you could donate literally $1, $5, $20 right now at benbraver.com, it would mean we could buy more flyers. Because I'm Gen Z, I use social media a lot. We have a TikTok at benbraverfl, and we're able to reach thousands of constituents every day through that. Just $1 donated to my campaign means 1,000 constituents I can reach out to via social media. So following us at benbraverfl, and go to my website, benbraver.com, and showing up to our events. We do a lot of community events. We have a town hall coming up on April 4th for PISO K-8 and for education in the state. PISO is being evicted from USF because they're raising the rent by 900%, which is insane. So we have a town hall for that on April 4th at Jan Communis Library. You can find us at benbraver.com and all the rest of our events there.
Shocker how the stadium, which I spoke out against for years when I was in the student government at USF, is now a prime thing that they want to build on campus. And now they're pushing out the elementary school. Is there a connection? I'm just asking questions.
Yeah, if you talk to anyone from administration, they'll say, I mean, there's no official thing saying, but talk to anyone, they'll say yes. And you're right. Ria Law, our last president, and the chairman of the board of trustees said this stadium, $407 million stadium, while they have an $889 million endowment, while they got $25 million from our county commission just the other day, that stadium, they're using it to justify the expulsion of this K-8. And they said, Ria Law and the board of trustees chairman, that this stadium would bring the Bulls community together for generations to come. And the first thing they're doing with it is evicting 900 students and a full staff.
You know, what it'll do is run up the bonds on University of South Florida for generations to come. We still have the same desk in the Arts and Sciences building since Gary was in college. And I think that is definitely a concern that they don't care about. I have not seen the student experience improved at the University of South Florida, despite the fact that they have built all of this stuff. I mean, there's a Publix on campus now, for crying out loud, but somehow in the grand scheme of things, tuition's not gotten cheaper. It's not helped with the parking situation. And now the kids that happen to go to school there in that area who are from the university community are being kicked out of their school. Also, we can build this gigantic stadium. For what reason, I don't know, other than to, I don't know who's making the money on the deal, but I know it isn't going back into what Bulls have on campus. I mean, it's just irritating on so many ways. And yeah, I mean, calling out and speaking out about it, they label you a dissident, or they label you just a pain in the ass. And I have no problem being a pain in the ass, but the kids really do that. That's what gets at me. It's like, damn, what about these kids? You know, they're going to be shipped to other schools. They're going to, the parents have to find, you know, so many other arrangements rather than being able to take them right there, especially if you work on campus or you happen to live and work in that community. So yeah, there's a lot to be said. Ben, I'm glad that you joined us in the rotation this morning. You know, it's not easy stepping up and running for office, especially in the state house. And, you know, you're doing a great thing. We definitely need more guys like you stepping up. I mean, I'm scared as shitless of reelecting this person.
She could have picked a different headshot. I don't think that's her resting face.
I just threw up in my mouth a little. Hey, I actually got a question for Ben that was texted to me from Vinny from Cushy Pies.
Yeah, go ahead.
He wants to know if he saw you at the No Kings protest, if you're the guy with the guitar.
Yes, I was absolutely. Yes, funny story. While I was an undergrad at USF, there would be these preachers that come on campus with these disgusting signs.
Oh, I fucking remember them.
Yeah. And so I'd go out in front of them with a huge crate full of condoms, and I'd shout "free condoms," and I'd play my guitar over them and hand out free condoms and sign people, register people to vote, and have them volunteer with Planned Parenthood. It was great. It was a great advertisement for me.
I got in trouble for hitting one with a golf cart. So, you know, but I didn't get in trouble for running him over with the golf cart. I got in trouble for not doing the paperwork to check out the golf cart. So I got charged with Grand Theft Auto.
You fucked up our golf cart.
Well, I got charged with Grand Theft Auto by UPD, and I had to go to court and everything. Yeah, this was way before I ever got arrested for weed. So, you know, it was not my first time in court facing a felony charge. But, you know, hey, I fought the law, I won, and here we are today. So, and with all that, Ben, I want to say, you know, thank you again for joining us in the rotation. We hope that that you could take a victory lap at the end of the election cycle, just like Brian Nathan did today. Thank you again to Senator-elect Brian Nathan for jumping into the show today, jumping into rotation, taking a few minutes out of time with his family to celebrate. And we hope that, you know, as they go to try and pass the budget, that he'll be representing our community and our neighborhood there in Tallahassee. And with all of that, it is time for the normal news. So at the top of the news hour, I think one of the most important things that folks want to know about is how the feds plan to integrate hemp-derived products into Medicare services. The Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, has released a frequently asked questions page on cms.gov, providing the details regarding how the agency intends to provide hemp-derived products to beneficiaries. The pilot program integrating eligible hemp-derived products is set to begin on April 1st, and the Trump administration had publicly announced this rollout in December. According to cms.gov, participating accountable care organizations and oncology programs will offer beneficiaries access to hemp products. Physicians overseeing the patient's use of hemp-derived products must determine that use is appropriate and must document required shared decision-making, including medication review and follow-up planning. This includes a documented discussion of products' potential benefits and risks, the beneficiary's goals and preferences, and a review of current medications and potential interactions. Eligible hemp products are limited to federally legal hemp-derived products containing no more than 0.3% Delta-9 THC and expressly excludes inhalable products. Any product containing more than 3 milligrams per serving of tetrahydrocannabinol, such as Delta-8, Delta-10, or tetrahydrocannabinolic acid in an orally administered form, or any products containing cannabinoids not naturally produced or capable of being produced by or in the cannabis plant during its cultivation, as the website states. Now, eligible hemp products must be furnished and provided directly by a qualified physician affiliated with the participant organization, as specified by the model participation agreements. Products must be tested by a third party for potency, including accurate cannabinoid measurements, and for contaminants and microbial hazards with negative results. You know, all in all, there's a link there, Carlos, if you want to throw it in the chat so folks can see. They can visit the Medicare website at cms.gov. Look at the frequently asked questions page. You know, they are looking at hemp products of up to $500 a year per eligible beneficiary if they meet all the requirements and jump through all the hoops. So we'll see how all of this shakes out. For the time being, if you're a senior citizen on Medicare, you're not going to be able to go into Carlos's shop and bill it to your insurance. So, but Carlos, I'd be interested to see how anybody would meet those requirements so that they could come in there potentially. So I think that's an interesting progress that we see, with Medicare in the grand scheme of things, how it's going to help with hemp products. Now, we talked earlier in the show about teen use. And again, I just want to reiterate that data published in the International Journal of Drug Policy, collected by Penn State University between 2008 and 2020, showed that there was no consistent evidence that adult use legalization leads to problematic cannabis use disorder in young people. Those are people ages 10 to 17. So again, as they talk about, what about the kids? Well, the kids are doing just fine. As a matter of fact, there's some great data coming out of the scientific journal Economic Modeling, which was done by researchers affiliated with the Jack Welch College of Business at Sacred Heart University in Connecticut and Barnard College in New York, evaluating the relationship between statewide cannabis policies and crime rates nationwide. And consistent with prior studies, they reported that liberalized marijuana laws were associated with reductions in overall criminal activity. Specifically, the adoption of medical cannabis legalization is associated with reduced property crime, and while adult use legalization is associated with decreases in violent crime. And these trends become more pronounced over time. I mean, the data says it all. So when you see politicians like Ron DeSantis and the Attorney General of Florida opposed to legalization, it makes you think, are they pro-crime? Because every study that we're looking at shows that legalizing it reduces crime. As a matter of fact, it does more than reduce crime. It reduces pain, because data published in the Journal of Pain Research, coming out of German researchers, assess the efficacy of CBD-dominant extracts versus legal FDA-approved dronabinol in matched cohorts of 484 elderly patients with either chronic or refractory pain conditions. And it found that plant-derived cannabis extracts are more effective than the synthetic stuff that's FDA-approved. I mean, and that is just hands down. The data shows what it is. It is what it is. I just think that there's a lot to be said as to the profit motives behind prohibition in the 21st century. And this last study and news article that I'm going to leave you with really hits on it, that alcohol sales continue a historic decline in the country of Canada post-legalization. As a matter of fact, the sales of adult use cannabis products in Canada have increased 6.5%, while the contrast, alcohol revenue declined by 1.6%. Canadians purchased $5.5 billion worth of cannabis products in the last fiscal year, with the sales of herbal cannabis products comprising 60% of all sales. And they had just legalized since 2018 as a country. The data from several jurisdictions in the U.S., including California, have identified a relationship between legal cannabis access and decreasing alcohol consumption. You can read that survey data in the Harm Reduction Journal, and it was found that 60% of cannabis consumers acknowledge it reduces their alcohol intake. So when you see prohibition have these connections between, essentially the prohibitionist and big alcohol and private prisons, it continues to be a major issue. Now, they don't like the fact that weed is legal, that people aren't buying their products, and that people want to buy either hemp products or legal weed where they have access to it in the vast majority of states. And even, the U.S. Army is changing its policy. I don't know if it has to do with war, if it has to do with Gen Z being, the way they are with not giving a fuck. But other than the Army increasing its enlistment age to 42, now you can also get into the Army without having to go through an extra waiver process with a paraphernalia or a misdemeanor cannabis conviction. So when the Army started admitting 42-year-old stoners, I was like, damn, okay, I guess I might be going to war soon. So, but Carlos, what are your thoughts, man? Are we going to end up going to Iran? Or I know they might have to run us through basic twice to get the weight off.
They're desperate.
They are desperate. You 42-year-old stoners, you millennials, you go back to it. But it made me think, man. In all of it, we think about all the veterans that we know that are our age. Folks like Jimmy, Nick, Devin, and it really, like, damn, that's the group that they're gonna need to win this war. Because Gen Zers ask questions. They want to know, like, hey, why do you want me to shoot at that guy?
But there's another issue yet they haven't breached yet. I don't know if you heard this or not, but DeSantis has said, and I quote, "When Cuba falls, we're going to ask all the Cuban expatriates to go back to Cuba to fix the island."
Nice way of saying we're going to break it, but we want you to pay to fix it. From the Cuban community. That is not how that works.
Are they going to be recruiting you guys?
Who is you guys? Because Carlos's dad is from Cuba. Carlos ain't from Cuba. Carlos is from South Florida, and my great grandfather is from Cuba. But
we don't know how many generations he's going to go back before to recruit his Cuban repatriation.
Is that possible though? Like, imagine if he was like, "I'll give anybody of Cuban blood, Cuban descent. If you want to go to Cuba and fix the island, we'll give you $10,000.
I have to ask what your dad's thinking about all this thing about the fact that they actually want to invade Cuba and take it over.
I haven't really spoken to them about it, but I'm pretty sure they're pretty stoked.
I mean, Carlos's pop spent time in a Cuban gulag.
Here's what we have talked about. We still have family there. We have a cousin and I think an uncle on my mom's side. So a cousin on my dad's side, and I think her name's Yoli. And so here's the thing is my parents, for the longest time, this is why I've always kind of like flinched when people said that Cuba has a good medical system, because my parents for the longest time have had to send medicine and had to send food and have had to send provisions to our family over there. They recently sent a solar generator because of all the bullshit that's happening. But if there was like some way for like me to like go to Cuba with like money, I'll totally do it.
I think DeSantis wants to be governor of Cuba. Kind of like the way that Columbus was governor of Hispaniola.
I think for the most part, I think the Cuban people here in Florida wouldn't mind going back and fixing.
Well, considering the fact the last two countries that he invaded for regime change are still currently enjoying the same regime, it'd be interesting if he invades Cuba and just finds somebody else within the Castro family to take over.
Well, look, man, let's
probably what's going to happen, right?
Let's lead a foreign policy to the folks handling foreign policy. Before we wrap up, I do want to talk about some interesting things here in Florida. We have a representative, Sheila Sherfless McCormick, who represents the 20th district, and this week she was found guilty of 25 out of the 27 ethics violations that she was accused of. One of them is the receipt of $1 million to her family's healthcare business and following Florida's overpayment of roughly $5 million in disaster relief funds. And she's accused of using that money to help fund her 2022 congressional campaign through a network of businesses and family members. And she's actually running right now for a fourth term in Congress. And it's interesting enough because she is running in the same district for re-election that Uncle Luke, Luther Campbell, is running for Congress in. And so I'm looking forward to hopefully having Uncle Luke in the rotation to talk a little bit about his congressional race, especially running against someone who's been found to be a corrupt fraudster in Congress. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I know Gary's in negotiations with his camp to make that happen. So fingers crossed.
Isn't corruption
one thing straight about Uncle Luke? Uncle Luke is the reason why we still have freedom of speech nowadays.
Hell yeah. Shout out to Uncle Luke for taking on Tip O'Neill and all those fuckers in the try to limit what we have to say in our music, in our thoughts. Hell, Uncle Luke's the reason Afro Man won his case this past week, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the hell with Tipper Gore.
Yeah, Tipper Gore. Yeah, that's who it was. I knew it was a Tipper.
Who was the sheriff that tried to arrested him in Broward County? Oh, dude, I'd be such a fanboy if Uncle Luke came on the show. I'd be like, hey, I'm from Hollywood.
Well, we will definitely be reporting on that as those things develop. But Gary, thank you for your tireless effort to continue to book amazing guests. Thank you for bringing on Ben Braver this week. I think it's awesome that you also were able to get Senator-elect Brian Nathan to join us in the rotation today. And
I want to point out something really cool about Ben. And he said that it was okay to talk about this stuff, but I don't know if y'all noticed, but I'm actually I get higher as the show progresses. So by the end of the show, I'm stoned out of my mind. And it's because typically I'll take an edible when the show starts. And I was like, Ben, you can grab something out of that fridge over there. And I'm looking, he drank a 50 milligram seltzer. And he was still I'm no longer articulate anymore.
And he said he's holding up just well.
And he was holding up just fine.
And his seltzer was good on his throat too, so there's a positive medical effect.
Well, we are going to continue to bring you all great guests each and every week as Gary books them. And I just want to say, don't forget to like and click and share if you're watching. It makes a big difference in the algorithm as we work to grow our following. You can follow us on our Instagram at Suncoast_NORML or at Suncoast NORML across every other social media outlet. If you want to go back and watch past episodes of the rotation, go to our YouTube, since Facebook deletes them every 30 days now. And you can check out the past episodes. We've had some amazing guests, whether it's been Tommy Chong, whether it's been members of Congress on both sides of the aisle, whether it's been candidates running for office. And so we're going to continue to bring you some great folks. And then, of course, the most important thing, become a member. You can become a member of Suncoast NORML, where you're actually contributing to an organization that's making all the difference in the world. And if you want to have a great time, if you want to have some fun, if you want to actually be able to not have to worry about paying for your membership in the upcoming year, then just enter in to the Best Blunt in the Bay competition at Chillum on April 18th. We're going to have an amazing time. Carlos, if I'm not mistaken, there was some belts that came in, and I know you wanted to do an unboxing, so I know you're going to take the time to do that. But in the meantime, I'm going to show the information with folks. They should know the Best Blunt in the Bay, April 18th, Chillum, St. Pete, 1916 Central Avenue. If you're watching right now, you can actually scan that QR code with your cell phone, take you to the tickets. If you want to know a little bit more about the competition, it's going to be 3 rounds, singles competition. And this year, we have the official Chillum Dabathon, where the last person standing will be the victor. Contestants will be fed dabs by Chillum's hemp tenders until they simply can't continue. No timers, no mercy. Make sure that you sign up to be a contestant in the competition, or what the most fun part of it is, become a judge, because the judges get to smoke the entries. Also, judges will have the opportunity to compete in the Dabathon this year for a belt. I know Carlos it was just looking in the back for the belts. So, Carlos, do you have them ready to unbox? You ready to unbox the belts?
Yeah, I got the belts right here.
All right. So this is live. I'm gonna put you on the big screen, Carlos. Why don't you show us this is official unboxing of what the belts look like, how the champions are going to go home. As you can see, the belt from the previous year's competition, that's our Best Blunt in the Bay 3 champion, who was also one of the team champions last year. So she's holding up the championship belt right there for the winner of the rolling competition. But Carlos is actually going to unbox the belts for this year's competition, and we're going to see who's going to go home with the belt. Again, the rolling competition, Best Blunt in the Bay 5. is going to be April 18th in St. Petersburg. Doors are going to open up at 7. So get your booty there. Have a good time. If you're a judge, it is going to be a fantastic time. If you're in the competition, it's going to be a fun time. Then, of course, again, this year with the Chillum Dabathon, we're going to see who's got the iron lung, who's the GOAT, who's going to make it happen. So, Carlos, you got the box there. Go ahead and unbox the belts. Yeah, show us what we got here.
It comes to paper. That's good.
We've got.
Oh, that's the banner. Yep. All right.
Oh, my Lord. Oh, dude, they're heavy.
Yeah.
There's two of them here.
That's the rolling competition belt right there. Yeah.
Competition belt.
Yep. I dig it.
I gotta tell you, I love the freestyle competition. I mean, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, and that lady who did that joint that looked exactly like Leon Jaworski.
My camera,
or possibly Harry Anslinger. I'm not quite certain.
It's too funny. Carlos, show us that's the Dabathon belt. Show us the smoking champion belt. Oh yeah. That's fire. And then there's the rolling competition belt. Pretty cool. Well, I hope that
Trump's Sharpie, I think.
Yeah. I hope that Todd, who's our defending champ, re-enters. Todd's girl Bobby says Todd is ready. Carlos is going to probably have to carry him to the car after the Dabathon.
You think Todd can handle the Dabathon?
I don't know. Todd is the first man to actually win the best blunt in the Bay. We've had women win every single year for the first 3 years. Todd won last year. So we'll see if he can hold on to the belt. And then, of course, we have the separate competition this year with the Chillum Dabathon to see who's got that iron lung, who's going to go home as the GOAT. So, and then Carlos has got the official banner there for the competition. I thought that's pretty solid. That'll be in our judges section behind the judges.
Oh my Lord!
Here we go.
You've never done something that nice. That's really nice.
Yeah. So,
good touch, dude.
And it has the good logo, because I like that one better than their current logo. Sorry.
Well, the current logo was a rebrand from National to not get us banned on social media, but I still like the logo that we came up with. So,
is this how you treat the people who walk by your store?
This is what I'm dealing with right here. So this guy's an important guy. His name's Black and Mild because he always comes in and buy Black and Milds.
Yeah, there you go. Which one's the wine flavored or original?
Original. Fuck wine.
But anyways, we appreciate you coming on and listening to the candidates. What we're trying to do here is get the right people in office. And again, it's not a matter of party; it's a matter of persons. And if we find a person we feel will do the right thing for Florida, we're going to put you on. Or even if you want to go with a national, if you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat, you're independent, and you want to come on the show and talk about what you can do to improve this country, improve this state, improve this local area, contact us, and we will get you on. And if you want to be part of the crowd that gets them into office, that goes to Tallahassee and helps move legislature, join Suncoast NORML. By all means, like, share, do whatever you got to do with this podcast, and also become a member. With that member, you get this really, really cool solid faux gold pin for your lapel and a bunch of other goodies, including a permanent discount at Chillum dispensary and mushrooms, both in Ybor City and St. Pete.
Well, I got to say, I'm pretty excited for the best blunt in the Bay. We are going to be off next week as a programming note. So, today is Palm Sunday. Also, we have Passover this week, and we're going to have Easter next Sunday. So we'll be spending time with family around the holidays. But looking forward.
Why is this so early? It was 420 last year, wasn't it? Why is it so early this year?
Blame the Catholic Church for changing the dates. I don't know, Carlos. Don't you got a degree in theology?
I don't understand. I don't have a degree in Catholicism, though.
It's based on the lunar calendar, dudes.
Yeah, there you go.
I thought it was based on the death of Jesus.
Yeah, well,
what are you talking about, Gary?
Well, I mean,
Jesus died this year.
I'm having a hard time trying to figure out how this. They constantly say, on Sunday,
the end of the month.
They constantly say he has risen, and he did it without Viagra. I don't know, I mean, yeah, you have to figure out what you believe.
Well, you know, interesting enough, this year Easter falls on the Sunday after Passover. So, to Carlos's point, this is one of the few times where the calendar may actually align with the historical events, based off of, you know, however many years it takes for the lunar calendar and the what happened over 2,000 years ago to line up. So that's an interesting tidbit. But again, we'll be back on April the 12th for our next show. Gary, do we have our April 12th guest confirmed? Can you tease out who it's supposed to be, or are we still in the process?
I cannot confirm nor deny.
All right. Well, I'm okay with that. And then of course we're going to also have again the Best Blunt in the Bay on the 18th. So we will not be doing the show on the 19th, and if we do, we'll probably be hungover, but it'll be a lot of fun regardless of how we talk about it. Again, get your tickets now before they sell out. There's a limited amount of judge tickets. Also for contestants, if you got friends, if you got people who you're always in the rotation with, talking shit about how they can roll the best blunts or the best joints, go ahead and sign up, get involved, and again, all proceeds go to a good cause, which is to legalize it. And of course, Carlos, as always, you have the last word.
Smoke dabs every hour.